Officer Greg Baker believed he knew the soul of this neighborhood. The manicured lawns of Oakmont Hills, the crisp morning air, the silent agreement of prosperity. It was a world he felt sworn to protect. 10 years on the force had forged his instincts into what he considered an unerring tool. He could spot trouble a mile away, a disruption in the peaceful rhythm of the suburb, and this morning, he saw one. Before we continue, if you're watching our video for the first time, we'd be truly grateful for your support. Please bless us by hitting that subscribe button. A black woman, Zaya Thompson, was jogging along the pristine sidewalk, her stride confident, her expression focused. She wore high-end athletic gear, earbuds in, a picture of modern fitness. But to Baker, she was an anomaly, a variable that didn't compute in his rigid equation of the neighborhood. He'd seen her pass the same stretch of road twice now, and his mind, trained to see patterns, interpreted it not as a workout loop, but as casing. He didn't think it, he knew it. He eased his patrol car to the curb, the gentle crunch of tires the only sound to break the morning calm. He stepped out, deliberately placing a hand on his duty belt, a gesture of casual authority. Zaya slowed her pace, pulling one earbud out, her breathing steady. She didn't look intimidated, which was the first thing that bothered him. "Morning," he said, his voice a little too loud in the quiet air. "Can I help you, officer?" Zaya asked, her tone even, polite. She wasn't catching her breath. She was in control. "Just wondering what you're doing in the area," he said, skipping the pleasantries. Her eyebrows raised just a fraction. "I'm jogging," she stated simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. He didn't like her tone. "We've had some reports of break-ins recently. You live around here?" The question was a test. He watched her closely, looking for the flicker of a lie. "I do," she said, her gaze unwavering. "A few streets over." "Got any ID on you?" Baker asked, the question coming out more like a demand. This was the moment of truth. This was where compliance separated the innocent from the guilty in his book. Zaya's calm expression finally tightened, not with fear, but with something else. Annoyance. "I don't carry my wallet when I go for a run, officer. Is there a problem?" He saw it as defiance. "The problem is, you're in an area you don't seem to belong in, and you're refusing to cooperate." The words hung in the air, ugly and sharp. He had just made the biggest mistake of his career, but the certainty that fueled him was a blinding force he couldn't see past. Zaya Thompson took a slow, deliberate breath, her eyes locking onto Officer Greg Baker's. She understood this dance. She had studied it, analyzed it, and dedicated her life to dismantling the very mindset that was staring her down. "I'm not refusing to cooperate," she said, her voice dropping slightly, becoming more precise. "I'm questioning why I'm being detained. I was jogging, that is all." Her composure seemed to infuriate him. To Baker, her calm logic wasn't a sign of innocence. It was the sophisticated tactic of someone who knew how to talk their way out of trouble. "You're being detained because you're acting suspiciously," he snapped, his voice rising. A man watering his petunias across the street paused, the spray of his hose faltering. A woman walking her poodle slowed her pace, her gaze flicking between the officer and the jogger. "Suspiciously," Zaya repeated the word, letting it hang in the air. "By running? In athletic clothes? In my own neighborhood?" Her questions were like surgical strikes against his flimsy justification. Baker felt his authority being eroded with every calm word she spoke. He needed to reassert control. "That's enough," he said, stepping forward, invading her personal space. "You're being evasive. I'm going to have to take you in." Zaya didn't flinch. On what grounds? For jogging while black? That was it. The accusation lit a fuse in his chest. "You're obstructing my investigation," he yelled, the sound echoing unnaturally on the quiet street. He reached out and grabbed her arm, his grip tight and unforgiving. Zaya stumbled, not from the force, but from the sheer audacity of the act. He was putting his hands on her. The man with the hose was now holding his phone up, the small red light of a recording blinking steadily. "Turn around," Baker growled, reaching for his handcuffs. "You're under arrest." Zaya looked from his face, contorted with misplaced anger, to the neighbor's phone, then back to him. Her expression was no longer calm. It was something colder, harder. "You have no idea what you're doing," she said, her voice a low, steely promise. He was about to find out. The metallic click of the handcuffs felt final to Officer Baker. He had neutralized the threat, restored order. He was pulling Zaya Thompson toward his patrol car when a sleek, black sedan without markings glided to a stop behind his vehicle. The driver's door opened and a man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out. Deputy Chief Miller. Baker's stomach plummeted. Miller wasn't the type to show up on a routine patrol. His presence meant something was either very wrong or about to be. "Baker, what in God's name is going on here?" Miller's voice was low but carried an unmistakable edge of command that cut through the morning air. The neighbors watched, silent and captivated. "Sir," Baker began, trying to maintain a professional front, his hand still gripping Zaya's arm. This individual was acting suspiciously, refused to provide identification, and was becoming belligerent. "I was effecting an arrest for obstruction." Miller's eyes moved from Baker's face to the handcuffs on Zaya's wrists, then to her face. A flicker of recognition, followed by sheer disbelief, crossed his features. He ignored Baker completely. "Chief Thompson, are you okay?" The title hit Baker like a physical blow. "Chief?" He looked back and forth between Miller and Zaya, his mind refusing to connect the dots. The woman he had just manhandled, the suspicious jogger, was Zaya Thompson, the newly appointed chief of the entire police department, the woman he was supposed to report to. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "I'm fine, Miller," Zaya said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. She looked directly at Baker, her eyes boring into him. "Officer Baker here was just giving me a first-hand look at his community policing techniques." The sarcasm was a razor blade. Miller turned back to Baker, his face a mask of cold fury, the kind of fury reserved for career-ending mistakes. "You just put your hands on the chief of police," Miller stated, his voice barely a whisper, yet it was louder than any shout. "Uncuff her, now!" Baker's hands trembled as he fumbled for the key. The cuffs fell away, leaving red marks on Zaya's skin. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only by the weight of Baker's catastrophic error. The cuffs were off, but Officer Greg Baker remained frozen, trapped in the wreckage of his own actions. Zaya Thompson rubbed her wrists, not looking at him, but at the quiet suburban street around them. She seemed to be taking in the trimmed hedges, the silent watching neighbors, the very scene of her humiliation. Then she turned her gaze back to Baker, and the full weight of her authority, previously hidden, was now undeniable. "Tell me, officer," she began, her voice devoid of anger, which was somehow worse. It was analytical, dissecting. What was it about me that was so threatening? My pace? My clothing? Or was it just me? Baker opened his mouth, but no words came out. What could he say? Every possible excuse shriveled into dust under her calm, penetrating stare. "You didn't ask if I needed help," she continued, taking a step closer. "You didn't approach me as a member of the community you're supposed to serve. You approached me as a problem to be solved, a threat to be neutralized. Your instinct wasn't to protect and serve, it was to doubt and control." Deputy Chief Miller stepped forward. "Baker, your badge and your weapon." The order was curt, final. With numb fingers, Baker unclipped his badge from his uniform, the small piece of metal feeling impossibly heavy. He placed it in Miller's outstretched hand, followed by his sidearm, the symbols of his power stripped away in an instant. Zaya watched the transaction with a deep, profound sadness in her eyes. "This isn't about you losing your job, officer," she said softly, but with an edge of steel. "It's about the countless others who look like me, who don't have a title to protect them, the ones who end up in the back of a car or worse because of an officer's instincts. That's the real crime here." She held his gaze for a final moment before turning and walking toward Miller's car without a backward glance. Baker stood alone on the sidewalk, the morning sun now feeling harsh and accusatory. He hadn't just made a mistake, he had revealed who he was. This story isn't just about one officer's career ending. It's about a system that allows such prejudice to wear a uniform. How do you fix an instinct? And who is being held accountable for the mistakes that aren't caught on camera? The ones where the victim isn't secretly the boss.